Welcome to Daybreak with Ted Tibbett and Michael Paul. If you have a comment, you can call us now at 261-0898 or pound 981 on any ceasefire device. Our email is newsradiomornings@gmail.com. A very good morning to our friend Gene Valentino, who is guest hosting with me today because, well, Ted is out. He's doing a veterans thing. We're pleased that Ted's out still doing things for veterans. He's been a solid force for the Pine Belt and really the state of Mississippi for veteran work, and we appreciate that. And we're always happy to let Ted off to do those kind of things. But Gene, I noticed something. You know, we're doing a Zoom call, and I can see in there, and I noticed there was a cute gal sitting on the couch over there. Who was that?
She slipped me some nice banana bread. And don't say anything too inflammatory. Little Trixie here will just start barking away, and you know you got some candid radio going on here.
I saw you slamming down some banana bread before during the break. So
that's exactly what. There's no secrets even without the camera.
That's right. Okay, so a lot of stuff going on. You know, we heard from the prosecutors out in New Mexico, and it looks like Alec Baldwin is going to be charged with involuntary. You know, for me, I mean, this is just me. This is my opinion of this guy. I mean, first of all, he's a liar because when you have a gun, it will not go off unless you pull the trigger. So he's lying. He pulled the trigger. The gun went off. I understand that they have it on film. That
Maureen and I are producers of a movie in California. It was a horror thriller movie. It's on Amazon Prime and Hulu, and you can access it there. It's entitled Minutes to Midnight, starring William Baldwin, Alec Baldwin's brother. And I didn't know Alec Baldwin, but I did know William Baldwin. William Baldwin, and he starred in the movie, our movie, with Richard Grieco from 21 Jump Street. Very interesting movie we have. It's still out in circulation. My point is as executive producers of the movie, you do not get to run away and claim ignorance or deny your liability or responsibility over the affairs of that production. And he's trying to do that now. He wants his cake and eat it too. You know, you can't have it both ways. Either you're an actor and you're distanced from the production, or you're part producer and you're directly involved in the ownership and responsibilities of that operation. You know, we all have businesses we own here, and whether we like it or not, we're responsible for those around us and who work for us. Yeah. And that's what my problem is with Baldwin. I think he's over his skis. I think his arrogance and his ego on this matter is going to pinch him really, really well. I think he's in for a surprise because the justice system is on the rebound. I think they've had enough of him.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Over his skis, I would put it more like he's a flaming narcissist, and he thinks he can charm his way out of this deal. That's what I think about Alec Baldwin.
Oh, boy. Hey, speaking of narcissist, how about Al Gore, former Vice President Al Gore, at this Davos event in Switzerland, talking about, reported that there would be no more snow on the caps of Mount Kilimanjaro by the year 2010. Guess what? Huge amounts of snow remain, and he's made many other such claims over the decades. I'm fed up with this guy too. He's over his skis too. He needs to take a powder and do something in his retirement because he's making
the thing. Yeah. Nobody hired this guy and put him in charge of this. I mean, he just steps in the way and wants to be in charge of this global warming, global cooling, climate change hoax that's going on. And it's called weather, folks, and it changes every season.
That's correct. That's correct. And you know, Michael, he's making over $2 million a month from this green renewable energy pitch that goes on. There are a bunch of elitists that are trying to claim that through their arrogance and overstated sense of self-worth that they know better than you about the future of this world. So donate to our cause and we'll protect you. Only to find out you're on the outside looking in while they're flying around on their corporate jets, causing more pollution than you and I ever could.
It's amazing to watch. You see all those jets. They showed a picture of all the jets that were in Davos, Switzerland. It's like there must be $1 billion worth of jets sitting there in that one frame of picture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's come to a point where because of social media, we've gotten ourselves in some trouble. But because of social media, we've made more people aware of the shortcomings and bad behaviors quicker than ever before. And so we now have to harness what's good about these new technologies and steer them on a proper path and put some of this other rancorous behavior on the back burner and create penalties for that bad behavior, such as an abuse of information getting out to the public, such as the abuse of the social media or taking advantage of the social media by government autocrats who use it to steer your public opinion and mine on various issues, which is what's before us in the news now. Michael, watch out. We have a changing tide coming into through our elected officials, thank God, to re-steer how they're going to even address the most sensitive issue before us. And there's many, but one of the most sensitive issues is the protection of our right of free speech, which has been compromised in this last decade by government insiders. You know, the people who get elected come and go, but those people serving as government bureaucrats who are 30, 40, 50 years on the job, it's also referred to as the deep, dark state. Those people have been controlling the lives of some of the political officials, such as the recent stifling of information about what really happened in the Kennedy assassination that no one still reveals. Why? Because it'll make the CIA look bad.
Did you watch Tucker Carlson last night by chance?
I did. That's what it reminded me of, that point just now.
That was amazing. I'll tell you, if you have a chance to go back and watch last night's show from Tucker Carlson, I think it was the opening segment talking about Richard Nixon actually leaving office. And the reason why he left office is because, well, the CIA set him up. I mean, the CIA was directly involved because Nixon was too popular. He was, in fact, no president before or since has gotten the number of electoral votes that Nixon got back in what, 72? It was a landslide. Right. No, and then they replaced Agnew with Gerald Ford, and that turns out to be sort of a scam in itself. And
yeah,
then
and
so
the Warren,
Gerald Ford is president, who was, by the way, a close confidant of the CIA.
Yeah. Yeah. And 3 or 4 people on the Warren Commission were CIA operatives. One of the most interesting things of all is, what was his name? Woodward from the Washington Post, who's a former CIA guy. He ends up working at a local news media in Washington, D.C., and it was Bernstein and Woodward that broke the story or did the research on Nixon, but it turns out he was a CIA operative. So there was a lot of...
He got the information. He got the information from the CIA.
Do you remember Deep Throat? The guy died a few years ago, but he was the inside information that Bernstein and Woodward were used for the Watergate affairs.
Amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And, you know, I look at some of this stuff and it's starting to come out now, and we have a real problem in this country. The deep state is real. Donald Trump recognized this. Donald Trump was actually the guy who went to Washington with good intentions. And let me just tell you something. The deep state, the permanent Washington establishment, decided very early that they were not going to allow Donald Trump to be able to change the ways in Washington, D.C. And of course, they did everything they could to stop his agenda, to stop him from being able to do anything. But you know what's happened? Gene, the cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah.
And people are aware of what's going on. And it's going to become more and more difficult for the deep state establishment crowd to be able to run this country without interference from the highest elected official in the land, the President of the United States.
We talk about term limits for the elected people. I agree with that. Some of these deep state operatives are bureaucrats who've been around 3, 4, 5 decades, and they don't need to be around that long. They have caused it's shown that they have been complicit in some of the wrongdoing behind the leaders, and Biden is going to be victim of that right now. There's even amongst his Democrat colleagues, I smell an attempt to remove him again before the end of his 4-year term. Don't be surprised if you see an impeachment in place that the Democrats go along with. And who are they trying to refresh and revitalize? Is Kamala Harris. She's trying to get a new image or a new redo. Don't be surprised if she steps up as a replacement for the remaining portion of Biden's 4-year term.
Yeah, and you look out there at others that are available. I mean, you've got Gavin Newsom in California. I think they're trying to polish his image up a little bit, and he's the worst governor the state of California has ever known.
Yeah, the Democrats. Yeah, the Democrats have no backup plan B. It's their whole second string is terrible.
Yeah, they do not have a very deep bench. You're exactly right. So, we'll just have to continue to watch this. But I can tell you the cat's out of the bag. People are much more aware today of what's going on in Washington, D.C. and how the establishment, the bureaucrats in Washington are really, and something, there was a movie called the Tail Wagging the Dog. What was that movie?
Yeah.
And it's so true.
That's true.
The tail is wagging the dog in Washington, D.C. And there are people up there in D.C. who are in charge. And we don't have any clue who they are, what they do, what agencies they are. But there is a concerted effort in Washington, D.C. to quell any kind of uprising against the establishment. They will do it, and they will do it efficiently, and they will cut your throat and watch you bleed. And that's what's about to happen to Joe Biden. We shouldn't be happy that it's happening to Joe Biden. But at the same time, I can't feel sorry for this guy because, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right?
Well, they did. That is true. And they ought to just look at the comparison on the papers that were in Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence as compared to the multiple locations. Biden had the same classified information spread and strewn about next to the Corvette in one garage and another 4 other locations in the Biden properties. The problem is you have a president named Donald Trump who had the legal authority to declassify documents he took home. You have no authority in a vice president who had documents sitting around these locations of his for years. And who are the guests at Biden's home during these relationships he was creating with China and Russia that he was getting paid big dollars for? And no one seems to. It's inconsistent.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to watch because, he's really, there's not much really I see. When you look at Donald Trump and you look at Joe Biden, those two actually both had classified documents, I guess, but one of them had the ability to declassify, the other one didn't. But that's not the big story. The big story is what you just said, the money that they're making off foreign governments.